Welcome to Entrepreneurship at Rowan, an official production of the award-winning Rowan Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We cover the entrepreneurial pulse of Rowan students, faculty, and alumni. Prepare to be Rowan proud.
Hello, Rowan community. My name is Ashley Kulikowski, and I am your host for Season 3 of Entrepreneurship at Rowan. We are excited to have Rowan alumni and business leaders, Chris Franzwa and Tony Samaritano. You may have seen their company on America's Got Talent, Verge, Aero. Welcome, Chris and Tony.
Thanks. I love what I do. I love talking about it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, same.
We are so excited to have you guys. I've seen you personally on America's Got Talent. I know our listeners have too. Chris and Tony, let's start with you, Chris. You both are on the founding team of Verge Aero. So, Chris, can you share with us your role with Verge Aero?
Pretty much both hardcore software engineers right now. At this point, things have evolved very, very quickly over the last couple of years. So my role has changed accordingly. I'm still focused on writing code all the time, but I also manage other engineers as well. It's kind of a tricky question if you charted the history of the company, because in the beginning our role was everything. We're all figuring it out together, and we took on different things at different times. Now that the company has grown and we've started to put in structure, I work on this, basically the client, or even ourselves, our own company, the software that people can interface with who are just like creative, or they're, pilots or whatever, and they're able to go and perform a drone show without any technically minded individuals or engineers involved. So that's my pretty much full-time focus, is designing those applications.
That's awesome. And to see the evolvement too, from when you first began, everything to now, there's more structure. You're able to manage a team, which is great. Tony, could you share with us your role with Verge Aero?
Yeah, it's, again, a very similar story. Yeah, we wore all the hats. So starting the company, all the way back to 2015. It took us 5 or 6 years essentially to build everything, learn all the lessons, deploy the system, and all of that. So my role has changed very rapidly throughout that entire course. But yeah, at this moment in time, I'm still hardcore in software engineering, making sure that the system that's deployed to ourselves and all of our customers, it's functioning well. And a lot of just management of engineers now, which is pretty cool. I actually enjoy building up teams and deriving requirements, and then building new systems and stuff for our customers. It's really enjoyable.
I would love to know how your team, the initial team, the founding team, first had the innovative idea of Verge Aero. Either one could answer this question. You both could answer.
Yeah, so the evolution of Verge. So before Verge, I worked at Boeing, and I was working in the R&D department there, which was cool. Also on electric flight and drones, and it was kind of funny. Boeing's too big to be doing drones, commercial drones, the ones that carry cameras and stuff. That we're effectively specializing in that size. And we kind of inside of Boeing, I was this is never going to go anywhere. So one of the things that I realized, and the whole founding team realized, once I got us all together, was that drones are really cool, and there's something that we can do here. So we ended up all of us, we ended up talking to customers and being what do you want to do with drones? Do you need to fly longer, or what about taking a drone and putting a banner on it for advertising or something like that? And all the feedback that we got from these just people who are willing to talk to us, which was awesome, was yeah, all your ideas are cool, but what if you could fly 100 drones and put a logo in the sky? And we heard it so many times in a row that we were well, okay, there's got to be something here. So At that point, that's when we sat down and formulated what it would take to build that type of a system, because we knew it was possible. We just knew it would take a lot of work. And at that point, myself, Chris, and Anthony, the technical co-founders, we came up with a plan to build out this technology. And it's kind of cool because from 2015, when we really mapped it out and identified the market opportunity, the plan really hasn't changed. It's been what we set out to do this entire time. It was just executing it, which has taken a ridiculous amount of time.
What is your target market? I feel like you guys could go into so many different markets. So what would you say is your target market?
I think the target market today is different than necessarily in the future. I think it branches out a lot. Right now, you could really just look at it as anyone who's doing fireworks today would be doing drone shows tomorrow, which is a really big market.
Yeah.
And people like fireworks, but there's not a whole lot you can do with them outside of making more. There's limited creative potential. The other thing is drones don't blow up, hopefully they don't blow up. But you get to reuse them over and over. It actually ends up being cheaper if you're doing enough business than it would be to do fireworks shows and whatnot. So, and there's a bunch of other advantages as well. I don't think, we generally think it's going to be an addition, but we have seen even this past 4th of July, where traditionally people would be doing fireworks in places where there's fire risks, like forest fire risks.
Yeah.
Or even some places were just looking for something new. They hired, us or one of our partners or whatever to do shows. How many shows did we do over the weekend?
Over that 4th of July weekend?
Yeah.
I think we did 10 just ourselves. Yeah.
Wow.
On 4th of July, we simultaneously flew, I think 5 or 6 fleets at the same time, essentially, all across the country.
Different places, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It was so really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, looking into the future, you could be looking at permanent installations. You could see situations where billboards are replaced with an installation. They go up, do their thing, come back down, recharge. Autonomy is sort of the future there. Obviously, you just need to provide electricity. There's FAA limitations. Those will change. Safety will change. There's a lot in the future for sure. But today, it's basically fireworks shows.
So could you share with us the journey of how you created your company structure?
For 80% of the company, it was just me, Chris, Anthony, and our CEO Nils, who was an early investor, and then we roped him into actually being the business mind behind it.
Oh, I love it.
And a big chunk of that time, because we had no business to do, and it was all just technical development, he really didn't have much to be involved in.
Okay.
In those early years. Now he's busy all the time. But
oh yeah.
Early on, it was just he's just sitting around tapping his toe waiting for us to finish.
It's kind of funny. Like Chris mentioned that we sold a fleet of drones. We actually sold a fleet of drones to a company out in Dubai. And this is a really interesting, and honestly, we look back at it fondly. Me, Chris, and Anthony ended up effectively moving out to Dubai in the winter of 2018 going into 2019. And that's when we actually started flying that fleet, proving the technology, and then taking all of that we learned and bringing it back to the United States to start to deploy.
Wow.
So it was in 2019, and this is also funny, in 2019 is when we were all right, we have the tech, we're starting to move forward, where we started to get traction, we started to get a bunch of shows all lined up. And then 2020 happened, and our entire business model was around flying drones for big festivals and stuff. And then COVID happened and shut everything down. So it completely took the wind out of our sails.
Wow.
And it was a really stressful time for us because we were just hitting the ground finally after years of development. From that point on, we ended up doing this just free show for healthcare workers out in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's awesome.
To say thank you. And it was a beautiful show. It was really well received. We were so happy to do it. We put so much time and effort into making it really special. And honestly, we kind of just got lucky with that. It went viral on social media. I think it had probably a combined 5 million views or something over the course of a few weeks. And
got picked up by people in other parts of the country, saw it on their local news, stuff like that.
That's incredible.
So that little like act of just trying to, we're sitting there idle doing like, what can we possibly do?
Yeah.
And, like after that happened, then we actually started to get traction when, like corporations and others, who wanted to just do something different. And like everyone was trying to think out of the box during COVID. So we actually ended up really funding the very beginning of the business part of our company by essentially like doing these like touring corporate things where we would do a cool show and then put their logo at the end, and they would film it all and then they'd blast it all over social media because it was just so new and cool.
Yeah, that's such a good idea too.
It helped fund the company because we were out of money at that point, and that was
out of money for
we had been out of money for sure. But yeah, no, that was great. It kickstarted the company in a way that we did not expect at all, and we made the most out of everybody not being able to go out to festivals, and during that like year period before the vaccine came out and people actually started to become active again, that helped us build up some momentum. So pretty much in 2021 and this year, it's just been full steam ahead. It's like any given day, like our fleet is fully utilized. People are really starting to see the potential from all the stuff that we've done in the past, and seeing that like this is the future of outdoor entertainment.
As Rowan alumni, how would you guys best describe how Rowan has equipped you to lead a successful company today?
Rowan gets his name from Henry Rowan, who was an electrical engineer and entrepreneur himself. It's kind of just ingrained into the culture, especially in the engineering school. Chris, Anthony, and I, we were all friends in college, and we did a bunch of projects together or like adjacent to each other that entire time that we were there. And like that camaraderie plus like all of the awesome professors that we had who just really believed in what we were doing, knew that we were absolutely insane, but just supported us anyway. That was great because like, honestly, to be an entrepreneur and especially to build something from scratch, like you have to kind of be a little crazy.
Yeah.
But Rowan gave us the space and the opportunity to actually explore all that in like a nice playground sandbox environment. So we actually learned a lot of lessons even before we went into industry, way before we started this company. So that was really good for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that I met these guys is because we all kind of work the same way. Like there were plenty of students. The sandbox is great. If you want to focus on your classes, do your tests, learn, like everyone's got different learning methods. But there's a chunk of people that are just basically, we live in that building.
Yeah.
We were always in the labs. We were doing extra projects. I think the first time I worked with Anthony was on an IEEE competition. I think it was Micro Mouse. But we were all like, it was actually a situation where we could see what the other people were. Like the people that we ended up communicating with are the ones that are like ultra passionate about what we do, which probably goes into other questions that you may have, but that's like, how we came together. The project, like the fact that there are so many courses that are just here, like you need to come to me with what you want to develop. Like here's the required, like you have to do this, this, and this, but you decide what you're going to develop. That open-ended thinking is essential. If they were just telling you, here's like blueprints, just copy this, you're not really learning anything. You're not being creative. We needed to, like, it was scary, right? Just you go into something like that. The longer we've done this, the more we realize, like, we'll figure it out because we always figure it out. I would say the thing is, though, with the three of us going in as engineers, I've noticed that I think the engineering program seems to be introducing even more entrepreneurial focused teaching. Tony has, you could talk about the clinic that you did, because that's also, that goes straight into everything that we're doing. Yeah. But that's the one thing, like we went in with entrepreneurial spirit and being able to focus on building things. But the business side, we definitely stumbled through in the beginning. But I think there's better resources today than there were even, well, I guess it's been a decade now. Just like,
it's hard as an entrepreneur to enter this entrepreneurial journey individually, right? But you had a team when it comes to Rowan with mentorships from your professors, giving you that hands-on experience, and then you were able to build your team at Rowan University. So what would be your best piece of advice on how to build an impactful, collaborative team?
Find people who disagree with you. You want to go in with with people that have very different opinions and strong ones, right? Because even if it takes you a full day of arguing back and forth, you're going to come out with a result that is probably the best of all the opinions.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, because this has to go hand in hand with that, those people that disagree with you, you have to make sure that even if you do get in serious arguments, because sometimes they're unavoidable, that it's fine. And you're just like, whatever, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is, the three of us are very tightly bound. We're all very loyal to each other. I have no concerns about anything. It's like there's no malintent at any point. We all have a unified vision, right? The vision needs to be the same.
Yes.
But how you get there should be different. You should have diversity in thinking. I think we stumbled into that, honestly. I can just say that in hindsight. Because that advice was never given to us, but it's definitely what's contributed.
I love that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Chris. Yeah, us three, we're like brothers. I mean, the amount of time and the amount of time that we've all spent together. I mean, probably at this point in time, it's probably been more than our actual siblings, right? And it has been it's been awesome. I wouldn't have done it with anybody else. But yeah, no, the groupthink is the most dangerous thing. I think that's especially early stage companies. You just see everybody, nobody's challenging anything. That is not our culture. Our culture has always been 100%. You almost to a fault disagree. Sometimes it just feels like we're disagreeing just to disagree. But it has resulted in overall really good decisions that have allowed us to scale the company up. I think if we all went in, to Chris's point, with the same mentality and this overwhelming optimism, and just we would have never had drones get off the ground.
I would love to know your experience with America's Got Talent. How did you get there? Tell us about the journey.
I think generally I would have said, if you said I was going to be on that show in general, let alone with the results that we got 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face. It's so far out of my comfort zone. I think what's interesting is that because we can just focus on engineering, stuff we know. We're on a stage, but we're answering questions. Got technical basis. I have confidence in that enough to talk about it. But it's very strange standing up on that stage. I've seen the show. I used to watch it when I was much, much younger, and you always wonder about how much of it is set up, or coached, whatever. They kind of didn't do much. They're just all right, you're going to go on stage and you're going to talk to the judges, and here's Terry Crews, and he's going to talk to you, and then all right, we're going right now.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
Fast.
It's actually far more genuine than I was expecting. The production team was great. They treated us very well. It was very exciting. I was not expecting the results. And if you want to talk about that experience, Tony.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting that at all. And yeah, I mean, it's just weird because you grow up with Simon Cowell and he's the world's critic, and to Chris's point, just to linger on Chris's point, they literally just pushed us on stage. We did a bunch of B-roll stuff, they did interviews, and yeah, it was super genuine. They're just be yourself. That's whatever. And
I
then,
love to hear that too.
They brought us over to the stage, and they're okay, you guys are on next. We'll give you an overview of everything. So we go up right behind stage, talk to Terry Crews for 2 minutes, and then they're okay, and they just pushed us off stage. And then you're just standing there in front of Simon Cowell going like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here?
And he hated it.
Like, just to think about everything that you guys are doing, it leads to our last question. We ask this on every single episode, but I would like to tailor it specifically to engineers that are thinking about going into the entrepreneurial space. They may not even have a company yet. Maybe they may not even have an idea, but they're listening to this podcast right now, hearing your story, and they're thinking, maybe I should enter this space too. What's your advice for them?
First of all, I think professionally, entrepreneurship is probably the hardest thing you could ever do. You're taking so many risks. Like the amount of sacrifices that we have all had to make, whether it be just in, like we've more or less burnt our entire 20s, like just focusing on this project. So you have to believe in what you're doing. If you even for a moment are like, I could leave it, don't do it. Like you have to find something that when it gets hard, because it will, it's going to take like 10 times longer, and it's going to be 10 times harder than you expect it to be. Like everybody hears like all these success stories of like the guy or the girl who like created a website and sold it for $1 million. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Maybe once in like 10,000, but you're not going to be that person. Just don't expect that. It takes a grind. It takes really good decisions. It takes sacrifice. And if you're not prepared for that, like you have to get into a headspace where you are. And then Chris mentioned this before, but making sure that you have a support network around you. I think me, Chris, and Anthony are just extremely fortunate to have really great families who supported us 100% of the way, allowed us to move back in our, late 20s, early 30s when we were just in the dumps, essentially, but all believed in us. You need to build that support network around it.
Well, I can add to like the hard part, but then also some positive stuff. I mean, the big thing is like, there's a good chance it's going to take longer than you expect it to. Even if you have a really good idea, you might be like, I'm going to work for 6 months and then I'll be good to go. It's probably not going to happen. Like we had prototypes in a fairly like short period of time, but then when it came to that point where we actually went, like we need more drones. We need to be able to do this faster, better, all this other stuff. None of what we had built was even applicable. We had to completely restart. So there's definitely stages. So the thing is, you want to start young, because I had brought up the stability thing. Stability is important as you get older, right? But you also don't have a lot of experience. So it's like, dive in. If this is something that you really want, dive in and expect to fail, and that's okay. And
good.
know, like if you go, okay, you know what, this idea is not working, don't keep pushing it. Go do something else. Like move on to the next thing. You will know. Like part of the reason that we stuck through for so long, despite like people looking at us and going like, you're wasting your time. You could have a nice job at like a certain place doing, making some money, whatever. We so understood or felt confident that we were going to be able to build something that was going to work.
Yeah.
That we just pushed through it. So that's what I'm saying is like, you'll know, you'll like feel it in your gut that like, this is something worth sticking to, but also all the failures that happened before that, fine. Part of the growing process.
This interview has equipped, especially the engineers that are listening, but all entrepreneurs to have that resilience, to have that drive, to keep trying even when something doesn't work out, to try new things too. And that's what this podcast is about, learning from entrepreneurs such as both of you, our Rowan alumni, being able to just learn from you, being able to continue watching your journey. So speaking of continue watching your journey, could you drop your social media handles, your website? How can people connect with Verge Aero?
Yeah, so we're on all of the relevant social media stuff. It's Verge Aero, VERGEAERO. So Aero like an aerospace, not arrow like a bow and arrow. The people mess that up all the time. We should do a better job at social media, to be honest. Yep. You could still follow us and reach out. I would expect within the next few months, we'll start to get our act together as we move into like the next phase of the company. But we've also been saying that for a while.
Follow Verge Aero on all of their social media handles. And then what about your website?
The website is verge.aero, so VERGE.AERO. And you can just Google us. It'll be the first thing that comes up. We have a bunch of our like recent news stories on there, some cool behind the scenes videos. Feel free to reach out.
We also do internships.
Yeah, we do internships.
Oh, this is incredible. Yeah. Oh, great shout out, interns. So friends that are listening, our Rowan community, if you are looking for an internship, especially with Verge Aero, go to their website, verge.aero, or just Google Verge Aero. Is that right? That's correct?
Yeah. If you search Virgin drones, well, sure to come up.
This is awesome. Thank you both, Tony and Chris, for joining us today. We learned so much. You provided so much insight and also encouragement and actual tools to use in our entrepreneurial journey. So thank you all for listening to this podcast. Many more episodes to come, so stay tuned. And we thank you for joining us at Entrepreneurship at Rowan.
Thank you for listening. Rowan is proud to be an official knowledge hub of the International Council for Small Business. Our AACSB award-winning entrepreneurship programs challenge students to solve real problems in bold and impactful ways. If you're interested in supporting entrepreneurship at Rowan or want to get more involved by hiring an intern, speaking to a class, or being featured as a case study, contact us at rcie@rowan.edu.